Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bees in a Pod. My name is Mo,
My name is Humaira.
and today, for our International Women's Month special, we're here with Marissa.
Hello.
Hello, Marissa. Marissa, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do here?
So my name's Marissa, and I volunteer for the food co-op.
Nice. So when did you get started? Because you've been doing. To be fair, it's been more than food co-op, hasn't
Yeah.
it? You've done quite a few things with us.
So I can't even remember when the first pilot started for the first food co-op, but we'll go with January for the new pilot.
Yeah.
I've done volunteering for quite a few things. I've lost track, to be fair. But I think we've done a few I was here for the last International Women's Day that Humaira set up. I've helped with the Christmas one that we just had. There's just any bits and bobs that you lot have set up. I'm here.
Why?
Why not? I've always been, ever since I was young, quite like to be involved with the community. And I think it's the best way to communicate with different nationalities, religions, everything you can think of. Now, at the moment, I work from home, so I have all the time I can. I work my own hours. So the fact that I can volunteer through the community, whether it's be the school or the community centre and out here, for me, it's just an extra achievement. But I like to help. Whether I help or not, I don't know, but I like to be proactive.
Do you do any kind of volunteering outside of where you live? Or are you mainly just doing it here?
I used to do it near my mum's area. She lives in Romford.
Okay.
But I've stuck to just our area now.
Oh, cool. So is there something about, is it just a locality that kind of keeps you volunteering here, or is there something more to it?
I think because I live here, it's easier if it's closer to home. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do it in like Tevye, but I also do courses and stuff in Bethnal. So Tower Hamlets based.
Nice.
Let's go with Tower Hamlets based. But I think, the locality is a bit more convenient at the moment.
Have you always grown up in Tower Hamlets? We
No.
always here. Okay,
So-
let's dive into your backstory then.
So I
origin
first came
story.
into the UK when I was 4 from Portugal. We lived in Hackney. And then from Hackney, we moved when I was 8 to Newham. So I did primary school there, secondary school there, college. And then we moved to Romford. After Romford, Hornchurch. And then Hornchurch, I got married and moved to Hamlets. So I've been to Hamlets 16, 17 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's been, have you noticed any kind of differences between living in these different areas versus where you're kind of settled here now for a bit?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the areas themselves are quite different. I mean, I know that, for example, Romford, or Havering, I should say, is a bit more multicultural now, as I'm sure you're lot aware. I can't imagine moving back to Havering. It's too green for me. And that sounds really bad because I love everything green. But do you know what it is? I'm used to the city life. And when it's too quiet, the shops close at 4.
Oh, wow.
Like, if I want to go to the shopping
That's
centre,
true.
6 o'clock is your cut-off point for certain shops. So I like going there when, I visit my mum, and that's about as far as I go. I can't imagine moving out.
And I always feel mixed about
city.
that because I don't know. I'm in a weird place because I feel like I'd prefer the peace out somewhere where it's more green. But you're right. I never really deeped that. Yeah, the shops are closed early.
But that's the thing. I mean, if you have a car, fantastic. Obviously, I don't drive. But if you have a car, then okay, you can, just drive to a local shopping centre or supermarket.
As long if you just want a snack.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just too quiet for me. I think I'm used to noise, but then I've got 4 kids, so the noise will go with me no matter where I go.
Yeah.
Have you felt like a kind of difference with how you've kind of approached just life generally pre you having kids versus like becoming a mother? Like, because I've heard from some people that like your identity kind of changes, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's just say that when I was pregnant with my eldest, I was about to start university. I didn't, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's an amazing experience becoming a parent and having children, but your identity 100% changes. because you are no longer living for yourself. Your children's needs have to come before yours, no matter what it is. Obviously, now all my children are in school, so I have the opportunity of volunteering or taking a course or working. But until their full-time education, that's it's your kids. You have no choice. And it's not just for mothers. Obviously, for me, I could go full-time work and my husband's more than happy to stay at home. How I feel about that is a different scenario because things won't be done the way I like them. However, it is a very big change. Sometimes not for everybody. I personally think I was quite young when I got married and had children. I mean, I love my husband and love my kids. Would I wait a bit more? 100%. I say to my daughter, my eldest daughter, is like, there's no way you're getting married. At least, you've got to wait at least until you're 25. Because in my head, it's like, did I miss out on certain things? Okay, miss out is probably the wrong word. But I could have gone traveling. I could have studied more. I chose to get married, which obviously I'm happy about now. But I think if you can do certain things while you're younger, 100% do them before. You can still get married. I mean, there's loads of people that don't have kids until later on. But get your stuff, you, because you is important. And you won't get that you time until much, much later.
Did you feel like because you had kids quite young, that you had to, like, in terms of your emotional development, you had to like go through like a crash course? Because I know, like, for me, to get even to the point where I was like 4 years ago, there was a lot to kind of unpack to really try and understand yourself and understand yourself better to a place where you can kind of maintain relationships better and support others better. But considering you went kind of married, had kids, how's that like in terms of your kind of personal emotional development?
Okay, so for me, I matured quite early, even before I got married. So the things of like running a household, even looking after children, for me, it wasn't new because I did it with my siblings. I did it with my nieces and nephews. I literally used to babysit during the week and weekends. So that kind of aspect, obviously it's slightly different babysitting to when it's your own children. But you do have to get a bit of a thicker skin. Children, as much as their own, they can get on your nerves. And sometimes friends, family, your children, they can say things that will be like, whoa, you have to take a step back and you have to get a thicker skin, because if you take everything to offense, everybody says, it's not going to work for you. I'm that type of person that it takes quite a lot to phase me anyway. I don't get annoyed very, very quickly. I don't lash out. Small things, it's just like, okay, that's your opinion and you keep your opinion. But then I've got friends that, for example, any small little thing and it gets to them and I'm like, it's all right, don't worry about it. I mean, these people don't pay your bills, they don't feed you, they don't feed your children. Obviously, for me, I'm in a mixed relationship. My husband is Bengali and I'm Portuguese. So that's two different cultures, essentially. Although we have similarities in cultures, it's very different. So the only concern I had, like when I first got married, is like, oh crap, it's like, are they going to accept me? Are my lot going to accept him? What are the differences? I mean, we don't really have any complications, but that's always in the back of your head, especially during the first year. Because it's like, what am I getting myself into? Like, I don't know their culture fully. He doesn't know mine. And essentially, because I'm a woman, I know it sounds bad, but it's going to be more me accepting into his culture because I'm entering into his family. Although he's entering into mine, you know. But I didn't have, I mean, thank God I didn't have any complications. I got along really well. They're stuck with me now because it's been too long. But so yeah, I don't really have any issues or self-concerns. It was more, how is this all going to work? But it's worked and we're here now. So
how did it work?
Communication. 100% communication. Obviously, when you get to know the person you're getting married, you have to have that communication beforehand anyway. I mean, it's all good and well saying, yes, we like how we look and how we talk. But if you don't communicate, bear in mind, you've never lived with this person. It's, even if you are dating or you're not dating, however it is, you have to communicate because and be open, because if you don't tell the person what it is you want, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
And there's no point in lying about it. I could be turning around and say, yeah, I'm fantastic. I love cleaning. And then we get married. It's like, well, hold on, mate. No, you don't. I know it's something small, but it plays a massive part, especially if you have to live with in-laws. I didn't. We had our own place. But if you have to live with in-laws, don't go around lying. Just be honest. Yeah. You could. There's workarounds. You can work around certain things. But if you lie, even your partner's going to be like, hold on, you told me this, all throughout the relationship. And now all of a sudden it's like, no, what's going on? So communication is key. And obviously, if you want to work, if you want to study, and vice versa, even sometimes the husband, it's rare, but sometimes the husband's like, well, do you know what? I don't mind if you go and work more hours. I work part-time, you work full-time, or vice versa. So I think communication is 100%. And don't jump into, I know that obviously putting religious aspects and stuff aside, but don't just jump into a situation because it's like, oh my God, because this is the person you're essentially going to be living with for the rest of your life. So we did a lot of talking. Bear in mind that if it would probably be a surprise, we only dated for a year and then we got married.
Okay.
So there was a lot of talking during that year. But yeah, I think obviously we worked together, so we knew how we were in that aspect. Yeah. Just a lot of talking and agreeing and disagreeing, but compromise. You've got no one's got. How do I put it? I'm not going to change my personality for you, just like you're not going to change yours for me. But there are compromises that you have to, adjust throughout a relationship.
Yeah. Do you find you bring these kind of these lessons into when you come kind of take part in kind of community stuff, particularly around the center, especially around here where there's it's quite diverse and in some cases divided as well. It's unfortunate, but like especially Teviot has historically been a divided area. We do see like some big bits of progress, like especially here in the center. Everybody's here. Everybody's kind of working towards one thing, and we're all, working together. But yeah, there are those difficulties. Have you found like these kind of like I said, the lessons that you've kind of learned that you've just spoken about, kind of materialize whilst you're volunteering and doing stuff around here?
100%. I mean, apart from volunteering at the center, my kids go to the school across the road, so I know a lot of the parents in the school. And obviously, just in general chats, even if we're coming to the centre just to have a coffee or whatever, people chat. Like it is what it is. That's one of the things I like about the community, and the fact that we have a community centre right here is you can literally just come in here, have a chat. And obviously you hear stories, like without going to details, but like you hear stories of like, oh, my husband doesn't do this, or my wife doesn't do this, or I can't do this. And I've spoken to people, like people have come up to me and said, how does you work? Obviously you're from a different culture. We can't even do it if we're the same culture. Yeah. And I always say to people, it's like, do you use talk? I feel like a lot of the community, they don't talk. I don't know if it's a fear or if it's they can't. Maybe it's age or culture. I don't know. But I always say it's like, talk. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? The person's going to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have like spoken to a lot of people, a lot of parents from school. Even like I've gone to the works and just like sometimes they're just there and they're just chatting, and it's obviously that's slightly diverse. It's a different type of community. And you can tell obviously you have to obviously understand people's religions and cultures play a part in a lot of things. But I always say to people, it's like, if you don't communicate what you want, don't expect anything to change.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So have you kind of how's the food co-op? Because I feel like that's the big main thing that people who come to the center kind of see you up forward and center. Have you found that experience like just generally?
For me, it's fantastic. I do my shopping there now every Thursday.
Do you want to tell us also about the food co-op?
Yeah,
give
of
it a
course.
Little plug.
So obviously the fact that we've actually gone organic now is amazing.
Start with because for people who don't know what the food co-op is.
Yeah, so the food co-op is we sell fruit and veg. It's sourced from essentially a few different farms in the UK. We started off by just doing in general normal fruit and veg. We've now gone organic. However, we don't charge organic prices. So you get all the benefits that you could get from organic food at the same price, if not cheaper sometimes. Now, for me, organic food at the beginning, I was like, eh. But I think that was more because I used to walk to a supermarket and I looked at the price and I was like, wow, is this made of gold?
Yeah.
It's like, what's so special about it? Obviously, now that I shop with us, I know the benefits. And I used to hate ginger. Like, ginger for me was like
Really?
something I used to hate. We used to be forced to have ginger when we were younger because of the benefits. And I was like,
Yeah.
now I get all organic ginger and it's mind-blowing. My
Really?
kids now have ginger.
Oh, that's so
My
cool.
husband's the fussiest person in my house, by the way, when it comes to food.
So is the dads.
Yeah, so is the dads. For him, I eat vegetables I have a tomato and a potato and that's as close as you're going to get. But since the food co-op, I've incorporated a lot of the fruit and veg that we sell here and I've taken it home and I'm like, just try it. What's the worst going to happen? You don't like it. You never have to eat it again.
Yeah.
So all my kids and now my husband, obviously, they don't eat everything. It's not magic.
Yeah.
But they do eat a lot. The ginger, I have ginger tea and I don't even peel the ginger. That's how fantastic our ginger is.
Wow.
Not to toot our own horn, but it is
Yeah.
fantastic ginger.
Yeah.
It is.
And I've also noticed that since we've gone organic, a lot more people are essentially buying. The price isn't even obviously an issue because we're as low as we can be, but
Yeah.
people are actually buying it for the benefits, which was something that was discussed prior to us being organic. People wanted organic produce because obviously a lot of them are concerned. Ever since COVID,
Yeah.
everyone's been a bit more concerned about their health.
Yeah.
So the benefits that you get is so much better than in general. I mean, I don't know if anyone hasn't seen, well, I know you guys have, we have almost everything that we have in season. We've got onions, potatoes,
Yeah.
cabbages, kale. We've even had Chinese leaf cabbage.
Yeah.
So if anyone likes make kimchi, come and get that. I
Yeah.
know that you got some, didn't you, Mo?
Yeah, but I'll never go around to making the kimchi. I feel disappointed
too.
in myself.
Oh,
My cabbage is still sitting there, but it's still in good condition.
well, come on. It's going to be fermented, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've had a lot of good feedback from people saying, can we get this? Can we get that? We've had, at the beginning when we first started, it essentially was just the community, the local community, like
Yeah.
parents from the school or local neighbours. We've actually had people that have come out from far. We've got one gentleman that comes from the island
Oh,
to
wow.
do his shopping with us. So, I mean, for me, even if we just get the one person that's not from the area,
Yeah. So huge
that's
win.
fantastic. So,
Yeah.
I love the food co-op.
Yeah, me too. It's so cool to hear because I've heard from a few people that like now that they're going and shopping at the food co-op, it is encouraging more healthy eating.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's cool, and the whole thing with it being in selling things that are in season and it being local produce, it gave me a bit of a reality call, like a wake up call. Because I love blueberries, and then I went to Melanie. He's like, "Oh, can we buy any blueberries?" Like, yeah, in spring.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it made me like, "Oh, wow!" Like, yeah, they don't grow until
They don't grow
spring.
until spring.
So it's interesting to try and kind of like because no doubt people's food habits will change and
Yeah.
how they eat will change and how they cook at home will change because you're cooking kind of seasonally, which is how it used to be for a very long time up until very recently, you know.
Yeah. And you're getting children
Yeah.
involved as well.
Yeah,
Because we've got like the homeschooling
yeah,
class
that's
here.
right.
They take their children and the children, I love the way they do it because they incorporate eating the food and paying for the food. So the children
Yeah.
are learning both aspects.
Oh, awesome.
But even my kids have like, oh, mum, Thursday, what are you bringing? And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's
Actually
so
asking,
cool.
whereas before it's like, she's going shopping, who cares?
That's so cool.
But yeah, it does. It incorporates
Oh.
a lot of the community. So,
Oh, cool. So I've got like a random question.
Mhm.
It's a scenario-based question.
Okay.
And it kind of, I think we'll kind of type everything. We'll kind of go back to what you've been saying. So you go home after this podcast, right?
Mhm.
And you pop into your room and you're by yourself.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, a portal opens up and you, as a teenager, walk out.
Oh, God.
What question do you think she should ask you to help her out, give her some kind of hope or like inspiration, or just what's a message, or what question should she ask you?
That's an interesting one. And I love the idea. Was it worth it?
Mm,
For me, I always think back, even now as an adult, I always think back like everything I did as a teacher. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't a bad teacher or anything like that, but like, missing lessons, hanging with certain people. At the time, I mean, these were my people. They were my best friends, weren't they? Um, and I think that if my teenage self could see me now, it would be questions like, was that all worth it? Funnily enough, my answer would be yes. Because it shaped who I was. Yes, there were some mistakes. And if I could go back, small things, I'd be like, Marissa, don't do that. Don't do that. However, I think it made me the person I am today. Don't get me wrong, when I was younger, I was a full-on tomboy. I used to hate, like, my idea of marriage and kids. But up until I was at least 16, I was like, I'm not getting married and having kids. Are you mad?
Why?
I don't know. It was just I think, bear in mind, my parents got separated and divorced when I was 9. They're still friends till today, so it was an amicable divorce. But I just thought I saw a lot of people separating, and children and the hassle and work life. And I thought to myself, I don't want that. It's like, I don't need that. Obviously, as you get older, you realize, hold on, actually, no, you do need that. And you do want that. But I think if I hadn't gone through what I had when I was younger, my teenage years, even stuff like bunking off school and stuff like that, I wouldn't have been who I am today. I wouldn't have been bubbly. I would have been confident. I wouldn't be a community-based person. I would have just been like home, sheltered. And so I think the experiences I had when I was a teenager made me, the good ones and the bad ones. Because now as an adult, I can be like, oh, I know it sounds bad, but sometimes you meet someone who's like, okay, you're very friendly, but not the type of person I want in my life. Whereas when I was younger, I would talk to everyone and anyone and everyone was my friend. And don't get me wrong, I'm still the most politest person you'll ever meet. I will still say good morning and hello to everybody. But with a few mistakes and lessons that you've learned, you kind of know who to and who not to, what to say to certain people and not. So it's experiences that made me who I am. So definitely.
What's the kind of, you said like, there's certain kinds of people, okay, these are good peoples. What do they look like? Who are they?
So for me, honesty is like one of the best things. I'm the type of friend, and I actually say these to my friends. If I have something to say to you, whether you like it or not, I'm not going to be rude about it, but I will say it to you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. Unfortunately, some people don't like that. They want to hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me. This is why I only have like a very small handful of people that I say, yeah, these are my friends. I can't be bothered with, how do I put this? People who just like constantly on the same drama, you have to have at least some sort of wavelength for me. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have exactly the same interests as me or like the same music or like the same things. I'm quite diverse in that sense. Like, I love crafts. I've got friends that hate crafts. They're just like, okay. I love cooking. I've got friends that if they could hire a chef, they would hire a chef. Our interest doesn't have to match, but we need to be able to be on the same wavelength, hold a conversation. Now, you know how you get some people who are just constantly picking or talking or nagging. I don't have the patience for that. Don't get me wrong, we're human and I'm a woman. We gossip. Any woman who tells you she doesn't gossip, she's lying. But there's a level of gossip. Talking about, something small to opposed to talking about someone's whole life and what's going on, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, with honesty, it's for me, I'm the type of person that's like, if you tell me something, you're telling me because you want me to know, it stays with me. I'm not going to go and share it with whoever. But some people do. And then when I look at people and I'm like, well, if you're talking to me about someone else, you're going to talk to someone else about me. So that type of relationship is like, hi, how are you? And that's about it. I think it's just seeing how some people are and knowing what to say and speak. But I'll be polite to everyone because that's just me.
do you think we should adopt these kind of characteristics as like a community? Do you think it would help? Do you think
100%? I think some people are too friendly in the sense of they're just too nice.
Yeah.
And you get taken for granted in that aspect. I will help whoever needs help, but I'm not a mug.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll help you, but if I can see that you're taking the mick, that help's going to eventually stop because this is my time that I'm spending. I think people need to be a bit more self-aware of how they act. Because sometimes it's not the other people. Sometimes I've always been the type of person to say, if I've offended you, I like banter. So if I've offended you, please tell me I've offended you. Sometimes I won't know.
Yeah.
You can come up to me and say, Marissa, that was a bit offensive. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it that way. But I'm not psychic. So I'm also not going to know unless you tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like oversensitive people. I know that sounds really bad because you should be a bit sensitive. But I also feel like some people are too sensitive. They take everything to offense. And then you've just got people that are just plain out mean, that are out to get anyone and everyone, you know. And I can't deal with those people. I can't deal with those people. Like I said, I'm quite upfront. So sometimes I have to watch my tone because I have to see where I am, what kind of environment I am. I can't just go out and say, what's your problem?
Yeah.
Although sometimes I will say, what's your problem?
Sometimes you have to.
Sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I feel that sometimes people in the community, they just take and take and take and take.
Yeah.
And then there's only so much taking you'll be able to take. It's like, where do you draw the line? I understand that obviously there's work environments, education environments, but you need to be able to be like, okay, I understand your point, but enough is enough.
Yeah.
That was rude. That was inconsiderate. That was whatever. I also feel that sometimes people in the community can't express themselves that well.
Yeah.
You don't have to be rude and tell someone, you know, swear at someone in order to put them in their place.
Yeah.
But that's why me personally, I like the community in general because I know people from all different backgrounds. So, you know, you learn.
Yeah.
Some people are more educated, some people are more eloquently spoken, and you just pick things up from people. So,
you know, something I've been curious about has been how has this is like a super LIC selfish question, but like how was the center like before we came in? And I know we had a bit of a gap, didn't we? Because we came in 3 months and then COVID hit and we were closed for a year and a half, pretty much.
I'm not going to lie, I have no idea. I cannot for the life of me remember the center before you guys.
Really?
Which is a good thing. That's a compliment,
awesome.
by the way.
That's awesome to hear.
I mean, I remember when you like,
awesome.
I remember when you lot came in and, you know, the staff and everything else. I can't remember who was even running the center before you lot came in. I'm sitting here trying to figure out who was running the center. Obviously, I know when COVID hit, like you said, everything went a bit on a standstill and stuff like that. I mean, for you guys, for me personally, I can't speak on anyone else's behalf. I know that I can come in here, whether it's for a coffee or for a podcast like we're doing.
Yeah.
But you guys are really friendly. This is, for me, if you're going to run a community centre, you have to have approachable people.
Yeah.
You have to have friendly people. I've been to community centres where it's like, I'm not coming back here again.
It's just cold, isn't
if
it?
the manager himself is looking at me like, what? It's really cold. You can't talk to anybody. You can't ask for advice. You can't ask what's going on. I mean, I've been to a community centre, without mentioning a community centre, where I've asked, what's your programme? And they're just like, well, can you come back later? And I'm like, oh okay. Okay. I was like, did I come back later? No, of course not. Because, you know.
That's awful.
But it's like, there's ways, like I said, it all comes back to what I said before, how you speak to people.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, how long have you, I don't even know how long you lot have been here now.
Almost 5 years.
But it's come up to 5 years now. But really.
Oh, it seems longer.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It seems longer.
But like, how was it? Like 2 years of that don't count.
Don't count.
COVID.
It still counts. She's still here.
It's such a bummer as well because we were like really we hit the ground running when we came in here because before the contract started, we already were doing some stuff here. So we were like soft launching ourselves. So we were already doing bits in the center.
Right. Okay.
And then our contract started I think officially started in October. We were doing stuff throughout the summer, just getting ready. So October came, we hit the ground running, we started up a new CAF, that's where my mum joined. Yeah. And then, we just started to change things and then like getting all this momentum. The CAF was getting really busy and packed out and people, you know, and then March and the finale of that all was like, we had a huge event in March over in Spotlight and here as well, I think. Terrible timing considering what came immediately afterwards, which is like no events. It was literally, I think, 2 weeks before the government started saying guidelines are no big gatherings. So before that, we didn't even know. about COVID. It was. Do you remember like when the news started dropping and it was like, oh, it's like what's happening now with the whooping cough thing, right? Where it's like you're hearing it bits and bobs, but it's like I was meant to go. I was meant to go to Holland.
Oh wow!
The day the
lockdown
the lockdown started. And I was like, nah, you know what? It's in America. It's not here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people actually thought it's like, no, that's not happening here. We don't have to worry about it. But then it came, and it did what it did. But I think with the pandemic, obviously, it changed a bit for the community centre because
definitely
not just community centre, obviously the whole community, but for the community centre. So I think because you lot had just started, it was like, hi, we're here, and it's like, oh no, we're not.
Yeah, that was literally, we were doing loads
but
of
we're stuck with you now. You're not going anywhere. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys are fantastic. I mean, I think the fact that obviously it's not, when you walk into some organizations and you've got like 20, 30 people, some organizations need it, but sometimes there's just too many people.
Yeah.
The fact that we know, like, we've got Mo and Humaira and Saeed and Job and, I think it's the fact that we know who's here. Obviously, some of us know a bit more. Like, I know if I want, to set up a podcast, I'm going to go to Mo.
Yeah.
But I think it's that you lot have made it so welcoming.
Yeah.
And people can just come in. Like I've said, I've come in sometimes and I've just sat there, like with Humaira or even Mash or whoever, and just, 5 minutes at a time. Then I look at the time, it's like, ooh, Saeed's going to walk in and be like, why are you not at work? But it's like, it's that friendliness that people can approach you. And I think that's what's needed in community centre. Some people just join a community centre and just like, that's just work. And you don't even see them. It's like, well, where are they?
Yeah.
Now, here, I know if I don't see you, it's because you're extremely busy doing something,
Yeah.
And like I said, I thought you lot had been here for much, much longer. I'm surprised it's only been 5 years.
We've managed to do a lot in such a short time. It's definitely something I'm very proud of all of us for achieving what we did. And you know what? One thing that I've noticed, because I've been doing a lot of recon at other community centers throughout the years we've been here. I always like pop into other community centers. I'll check out what they're doing online. Call up sometimes I pop in, just incognito mode.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed where we stand out is the number of free things we have here.
Yes.
In a lot of places, you got a few free things, and then
I've received sometimes like flyers through WhatsApp or whatever, or through the door, or sometimes I've walked to a community center, and it's fantastic that you've got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
But if you're charging for them, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't charge. Of course, some things you're going to have to charge for.
Yeah, of course.
But I feel with the Tevye, we've probably got the most, like you said, free availability from, fitness classes to crafts classes or whatever it is. Whereas others, it's like, and timings. That's another thing I've noticed. A lot of the other community centers do things quite late. Now, for me, it's like, I'm not going to drag my child at 5:30, 6:30, 7:30 to go to community center to do something. It's not feasible for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with my youngest being on the spectrum. That's his routine completely gone. Now here, you lot do it, even if it's straight after school, you've got it straight open. I don't mind it going on until 5:30 because we're already here from 3:30. So it shows that you lot are doing something, innit?
Yeah, a lot of that's like just listening.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like it's a dying skill.
It is.
Listening.
100%.
It's Humaira, do you have any? I've noticed I've been talking a lot, and you should jump in whenever.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I think I can go into our next one. I guess. So reflecting on your upbringing and just the past in general, would you say there's a figure that has been like an inspiration to you, and who that would be?
That is so weird. Yesterday I was on my leadership course, and that was exactly the same question I was asked.
Oh wow! Awesome. So you got an answer already.
My answer at first was like, no one. And then halfway through I was like, I think my nan. I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously my mum as well, but my nan. I was raised by both my grandparents for the first 4 years of my life. And then I came here and I used to go every holiday, summer, half terms, back home. But my dad's mum was someone that at the time I used to be like, wow. Both my grandparents worked, but you know how traditionally you'd see the husband goes to work and the wife, they did that, but it was opposites. My granddad did the cooking. My nan would go to work. She'd do the shopping. She'd pay the bills. And it was always something she instilled at me at the time. When I was younger, obviously I was the only child at the time. But it was something she just goes, you can get married, you can have children, but never lose your independence. My nan worked all the way up until she got ill. Unfortunately, she passed away quite young at the age of 53 from ovarian cancer. But when I mean that woman worked until she could physically not walk, for me, it was just like, wow. And it was someone who was strong because they came originally from the villages and then they moved to the city in Lisbon. So for them, both of them, they didn't know anyone there. Eventually, she had a sister who moved, but she had to work. And when I mean my nan worked, so my nan was a cleaner. She used to iron people's clothes. So she used to do, I used to go with her on holiday, and I used to go sometimes. She used to do people's houses, and she'd do one job at 9 a.m, do that quickly, and then at 11 o'clock she'd have another job, and then we'd come home for lunch, and then it was always busy. And at the time I thought, this is a bit boring. But then I grew up and thought, wow, that it was an inspiration, because it's like, this woman could do all. She still managed to get home before her husband came home, and everything was clean and everything was neat. And I think I think that's how my dad is an only child. So I think when I look at my dad now as an adult, I think, okay, I know where you got your OCD and your this, that were from. It's from your parents. But for me, it was like, this is a woman that basically went through everything and still managed to succeed. And the amount of people that would come back to us and be like, your nan was an inspiration. She was really nice. She was this, that, and the other. Even now, when I sometimes speak to somebody back home, they're like, oh, I remember your nan. I'm like, God, that was like years ago. She passed away when I was 12. So yeah, my nan. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but
that was such
my nan,
a good story.
Someone
so
who,
amazing.
That's such a good story, because I definitely related to that in a sense with my mom, because my mom's a bit, she's super.
His mom's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's honestly, she's my inspiration. Super strong-headed in a good way, sometimes in a stubborn way, but we move. But yeah, no, she's
super hardworking as well.
She's always on the go,
very hardworking and independent in her own way. Very independently minded. And my parents' relationships is an inspiration to me, because it's so interesting, because it's like, it's traditional in one sense, and then in another sense they very much are two people looking out for each other.
That's exactly what I meant with my nan and my granddad. It was like, don't get me wrong, they were married, they had their whatever, because we still got, bear in mind that my grandparents were older generation, so they still had that cultural and traditional aspect. But at the same time, it's like, when you looked at them, it's like, no, that's one person and that's another person.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's definitely something that I want to emulate, hopefully, in my marriage in the future. Because it's, inshallah, like it's I definitely have a lot of respect and inspiration for that. So yeah, that was like,
your mom's lovely anyway, so
she is. I'm gonna go see her off. I can't see her off talk today. We've got a social.
You've got a social.
I'm not getting home till 9. Yeah, Humaira, do you have any other questions, or do you have any questions for us?
That's a good one.
That's
a good idea. I think I should have put me on the spot. What do I ask? Okay. But how has working for LIC changed your thoughts, for example?
Mara, you go first.
She's got to think now.
I have to think. I'm joking. No, I can say. So, going back to my story again. So obviously I've known LIC since I was like 12, 13. Obviously at that time, you don't see, as a young person, you don't see the behind the scenes or how much it actually takes to do. You only see the outcome. You don't see the behind the scenes. But having worked here for 3 years now, it has definitely changed me as an individual as well. Especially working in a community center. You have to adjust in certain ways, but then you also have to put yourself into it. So your personality needs to show. And I think it's changed me as a person. I've become more confident, definitely, because you can be a certain way at home or, with your friends, with your family. And then in a workplace, you just need to really adapt yourself.
Yeah.
But then let your personality come through as well. So it's definitely made me more confident, more personable, I think, as well. And yeah, I think it's made me a happier person as well. I guess that's a running theme with all of us.
Yeah.
It's generally made me really happy, and I really love what I do as well.
Do you find any parts of it challenging? What do you find? But both in terms of like work wise and also
community wise.
Yeah, personally, emotionally, just like for you.
So I guess in general, it'll be challenging. Just working in a community center in general, because you have lots of different user groups, lots of different personalities. It's always hard, balancing things. But I mean, I think the positives outweigh the negatives, definitely.
That's always good.
And then personally, I would say, I mean, yeah, definitely, I would say the challenges, especially in, again, emotions and how I can conduct myself almost, because obviously, again, there's certain ways I would conduct myself at home and then working.
Of course,
some people test your patience.
Oh,
definitely. And I guess it's just that balance on how
how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's definitely been a learning curve. Like for me, it's definitely improved my patience. Like that's a lie. I've not always been patient.
No.
It's definitely helped strengthen my patience working here, particularly with difficult people and groups.
I think the underlying theme here.
Yeah, it's the underlying theme, difficult people and groups, which you're going to find everywhere. But it's also taking, one thing that especially Saeed specifically helped me really understand is really empathizing with those difficult people and trying despite
I like the trying part. It's the trying.
Despite where for the people listening, they're clearly talking about someone we are, but obviously
but there's lots of them, don't worry.
There's lots of different they're everywhere. The kind of people we're talking about
are everywhere.
You got someone living down your street that is this person. We all
family members don't listen.
So it's definitely he's definitely taught me like patience and also empathizing with people, even people that you don't agree with or people that you find outright offensive and racist to some extent. So we've had to deal with that here quite a few times. Each of us individually have had to deal with racist comments, and unfortunately, because of the way things are, those people can continue to come here, and we still have to offer them our services, because at the end of the day,
you just have to be professional.
You have to be professional, and they irrespective of their beliefs, because you don't know where their beliefs stem from. A lot of it is ignorance, a lot of it is fear mongering, and it's a wider issue in this whole country, particularly around racism. It's a wider issue because it stems from the fear of the unknown. It stems from hearing things on WhatsApp, on the news. So it's that level of empathy, building that. And I have to be careful not to smudge my makeup. I'm so used to touching my face. And I think for me, definitely I never ever considered working for like a community organization or a charity.
Interesting.
While I was at uni, because even though I've always been at LIC since I was like 13, 14, and I started working freelance at like 16, and then part time at like 19 or 20, and then full time at 25. So I've always been here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until we moved to the Teviot Center and we started doing community work that I was like, oh, you know what? I like this field of work. I wanna stay in this field of work. Even if I go elsewhere, I don't want to go corporate. And also by the time I got to that realization, all my friends have gone into corporate and I'm hearing their experiences. And I'm like, I couldn't do this in JP Morgan.
Can you imagine?
100% not.
I couldn't get away with this. And the fact that I was at a conference recently and somebody was asking me about this podcast, and I didn't even think, without thinking, I was like, I can't believe I'm getting away with it.
But it's true though.
That's how I feel.
It's a lot more rigid and a lot more stricter, and unfortunately a lot more boring.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Some people do love corporate aspects and stuff like that. I mean, I've worked in offices for the majority of my adult life, and even me, it's like, no, can I be bothered now? No. So the fact that you've obviously got fantastic people that you work with and you can dress up as a bee, I mean, can't ask for more, can you?
Okay, so just to wrap up then, do you have any kind of final bits of advice for somebody listening?
Well, main one, come use our co-op. Sorry, I had to.
Thursdays,
yes.
11 to 4 now, right?
Yes, it
11
is.
to 4.
Yep. I think the main thing I'm going to say is obviously always be honest and communicate. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's your personal life, your work life. Communication is key. 100%. I can't. I know it sounds bad, but I cannot stress enough. If you do not communicate, you will not get anything done. Because what will happen is people will talk, and you'll just be standing there listening and be like, oh, okay, and now what? Where's my 2 cents? Communicate. Worst case scenario is, for example, if it's work related or whatever, is the answer is no.
Yeah.
It's quite simple. And obviously come to the Teviot because we've got things going on.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, Marissa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I really, really appreciate it. This was a cool convo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Bees in a Pod. I've been your host, Mo.
And Humaira.
Co-host Humaira.
Co-host Humaira.
And thank you for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Share. Not enough of you are sharing. I look at the stats.
Yeah,
I look at the stats. You guys are liking. There's not enough sharing. So tap share. Thank you.
Thanks. That was so cool. Oh my God, that feels weird with that headphones on now.